Right. Let's do it.
Let's do what?
A podcast.
About what?
About retro shit, old stuff and vintage things.
That's because this is just another retrocast.
Is it just another retrocast?
Just another one.
From another bunch of tossers who are old enough to remember retro things.
Yeah.
We've got another podcast, though.
We have.
For younger viewers.
God for
listeners, people.
Well, it's not for younger viewers or listeners.
It's just for
Still
people.
fairly explicit.
Yeah, that's true. Don't listen to it with children. The snooze button is released on Tuesdays generally, and it is to do with TV, pop culture, and that sort of news.
Yeah, we're all of that age now where we refer to younger people as anyone under the age of 30. So
Yeah, true.
yeah, that's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
if you like retro stuff, have a listen to this.
Let's do it.
Boom. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode number 15 of Just Another Retrocast with Mr. Paul Brown,
hello there.
Mr. Adam Cattrall,
Hello.
Mr. Ross Murphy,
Hello.
and me, Chris Quinton. Hello. This evening, our topic is arcades.
China!
India. So yeah, if you were a fan of arcades and arcade games and stuff when you were growing up, well, it sounds like we were. So yeah, I've always thought, in actual fact, I used to have this conversation with a mate of mine when we used to walk to work past an arcade every single week, that working in an arcade must be fucking horrific because it's constantly like
relentless, the noise,
ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding.
Flashing lights.
You'd just go in with a baseball bat one day and go mental, wouldn't you?
Oh.
Just
Well,
smash it up.
The only
If you're in your booth, you've probably in your booth, you don't hear as much. You can just put headphones on and ignore everything and just give out tokens to wankers every few seconds.
While you're playing Tetris on your Game Boy.
And also, when we're talking about arcades, when arcades were a thing like that, you were just smoking fags as well.
That's true.
True, very true.
They had
But
the
yeah.
pint holders on the side of all the fruit machines
Oh,
back
they
then
did.
as well, didn't they?
And ashtrays, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Not that I ever played fruit machines. Hate them.
No.
I've never liked them. I've never
It's
seen
them.
them appeal.
dangerous.
The graphics are shit.
Absolute shit. It's a, yeah, spinny
I
wheelie
had a
bollocks.
little season where I worked in a pub where we used to watch the fruit machine like over the course of the day, and so we'd know when to play on it. And
Yeah,
stuff.
mate of mine
And
used to
then
do
so
the same.
we'd go right. That's had at least 70 quid going it
Yeah.
today, and then we'd pump 20 quid into it and clean it out.
Mate of mine who used to work behind the bar and he'd double his wages doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bastards.
you just know when to play it.
Fair enough. We've got a couple of gambling machines in the pub down the road where I do the odd shift. So, hi, Rich, if you're listening.
Yeah.
I know this is exactly what you do, mate. So perhaps I'll start doing it before you get to work.
Good plan.
Who knows? Anyway, moving on.
Right,
Yeah.
before we get to actual arcades, what was the first arcade game any of you ever played?
Oh.
Crikey.
Oh, I remember mine.
I know exactly what mine is, and it wasn't
Yeah.
in an arcade.
Nor was mine.
No,
What was yours
that was
then,
mine.
Ross?
I reckon it was. I'm just having a guess of where it is, but I'm fairly sure it was at Whitecliff Bay Holiday Park
Okay.
or around that area. I know it was near.
That's a small holiday park. It's a caravan park on the Isle of Wight where we live. Did you used to...
Yeah, but
have
it
you
might
always
have
lived
been
here?
before it was
And for anyone
I
younger
know
that is
all I
listening,
know
we're
is
talking
that it
about
was in that
arcade
area.
machines.
right, and it
like
was
actual stand-up machines. So yeah, just to clarify, because I think there is if we got any younger listeners,
Not a NES in a
haven't seen
caravan.
them, yeah, like actual like stand-up tower.
And now I'm not too sure about what the game was now,
Cabinet games.
yeah,
but it was one of the tabletop coffee table ones.
Oh, yeah,
where the
yeah.
Screens in
Oh,
the middle
right.
and the controllers down by your legs.
Yeah.
And it was either Hunchback or Joust, and I can't remember which one it was. Which one did you go across battlements?
Hunchback.
It's Hunchback. And
Joust, you're on an ostrich, like
Yeah,
Right,
that's
okay.
right.
floating around the
So
screen.
Hunchback
Yeah.
Four
is
player
the
as
one
well, isn't
where
it?
you're
Yeah.
jumping between gaps on I'm probably supposedly on the top of Notre Dame, but it just looks like a shitty castle.
That's the one I played.
Yeah, it was. That's definitely Hunchback then, and
Yeah.
that's the first game I ever remember playing.
Ah, mine was Green Beret.
Oh,
Oh, that's a good
belt
game.
game.
That. It's a fucking banging game. That.
Yeah.
Really difficult, though.
Yeah.
And I remember being, well, I was quite young. It was at a pub called the White Mouse, also on the Isle of Wight.
Amazing.
And my parents used to go there for country and western nights on a Friday evening. And yeah.
So thanks, Mum
Really?
and Dad.
Yeah,
Oh, I used to
I
go
owe
there
them
for
a lot, don't I?
biker dues with my dad, and they had
Yeah.
a blow-up boxing ring with giant blow-up gloves.
Right.
So, like, you get a biker stand there, and a kid would get in and put the giant boxing gloves on and just batter the biker.
Right.
Like, and they'd be their dad or their uncle or something. It was hilarious.
He
I
wouldn't be in
used to
there with
love
the
that
bike,
pub.
would he?
No, not with
No.
the bike.
They probably
no.
serve those in Scotland, don't they?
Yeah.
Battered bikers. Anyway, right. Green Beret. Very difficult game.
Yeah.
I remember pumping too much money into that game and not getting anywhere.
Incredible
really good.
game. It's like
It's a platformer.
yeah.
it's a
and
vertical scrolling shooter.
Side-scrolling.
Well, you start off
Side-scrolling.
stabbing, don't you?
I'm
It's,
thinking of Commando.
You're thinking of Commando,
you're
yeah.
thinking
Commando's
Commando.
vertical scroller.
Yeah.
So side-scroller, and it's like you're a soldier, a Green Beret as it happens,
Yeah.
maybe in Russia.
Oh, so more like
But-
Shinobi.
yeah, more like Shinobi.
Sort of,
but
but
you're
I'd say
just
it's,
armed with a knife
yeah,
to start
that's
with.
it. It's a bit. Actually, it's a bit more like Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, well,
Ghouls and Ghosts.
they're both bloody difficult.
Exactly.
aren't they?
They're
Get it,
all
but I've got a
out there,
lot of
aren't they?
respect for those two games. Always fascinated me, but I cannot get the first level. Evil games.
Evil games. Go on then, Paul.
Same as Ross. Actually, the first one I ever saw, I came in contact with, it was just like I was just mesmerised. It was probably about 1980, and it was in the local chippy. It was in the corner of the local chippy. It was Space Invaders. But
Right.
the first one I actually played, I mean, the noises from that classic now. It just makes me go, ooh, you know, bit.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it was Hunchback. The pub table, you know, what do they call it? The coffee table version. Yeah, it was Hunchback. That's the first one I played in my mate's pub that he lived in, and it was just mind blowing.
Adam?
I had a memory earlier, but then actually now you've mentioned other things. I think the first one I ever played was a tabletop one in, I think it was probably something like the Social Club in Freshwater. And they had all the pool tables, and then at one side they had two tiny little chairs for kids with this little tabletop arcade machine that had Space Invaders
Brilliant.
or something similar to that, or Asteroids. So it was one of those two. So it was this scrolling along the bottom, shooting at each other, or they had the Asteroids.
They suited single screen games. Those,
yeah.
Those type of cabinets, didn't they?
Yeah.
But it was good because the Space Invaders thing, you could play it on your own, or if you played it with someone else, you had buildings either end, and then the aliens in the middle coming towards both of you, but you could also shoot at each other's buildings.
Wicked. That
Yeah,
sounds
there was
great.
like a two-player mode. But
Don't remember that.
I think that's probably my first experience of like an arcade machine in some form, like one of those.
Cool.
Their arcade games were really difficult, weren't they?
Yeah,
Very
just
tough.
designed
That was the
to
whole
like,
point,
screw
wasn't it?
you for money.
Yeah, totally.
But
fuck
you'd
you
stick
for
a
money.
quid in a machine, wouldn't you? When it was 20p a go.
Yeah,
Yeah, but most of them were like back then were like 10p ago.
10 or 20p, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Did
depending on the machine.
Have any of you ever completed an arcade game?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, tell
Yeah.
a lie.
I
Yeah.
used to be fucking brilliant at Operation Thunderbolt.
Oh, really?
I used to be able to complete it on 20p, and 40p would definitely get me.
Fuck.
Wow.
That takes some doing.
But it's just
So
it's
Operation
not
Thunderbolt,
overly
sorry,
difficult.
just to check, that's the one with the machine gun, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, but it's the sequel
it's
to
the
Operation.
sequel, so you got two
Operation
machine
Wolf,
guns.
So it's
Yeah.
2-player.
Yeah.
And we used to go down Ventnor after high school. So arcades were already on the way out by then.
Yep.
But we just got really good at Operations on the Bolt. And it's mostly just pattern recognition, saving your ammo, saving your grenades for the guys with the body armor and the miniguns. And then the only cheap thing about it was the last boss was a hostage situation.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes you just miss shooting the guy because you could only really shoot the guy in the head.
Right.
And if you missed him and shooting him in the head, you'd shoot the hostage and you wouldn't just lose.
That's it, game over.
So you get to the end and you
Yeah.
just
Wow.
lose. But then what you forget is most of these games are not very long.
No.
I can't imagine that was more than 20 minutes from start to finish.
Yeah,
Maybe half
time
hour.
crisis, 45 minutes to an hour
Right.
to complete it. If you got two of you like actually working together, playing the original Time Crisis, you could complete that in about 45 minutes to
Love
an
that
hour.
game.
Yeah,
It's a great one. With the foot
that's
pedal
one I
and the
completed.
twisting away from
House
the screen.
of the Dead.
House of the Dead. Yeah.
Completed that one with.
I love that one.
That was on it was weird. It was like a 3-player one rather than 4 or 2. So you had someone in the middle that only had a shotgun, and then the two people either side that had a weapon that would change if you got the item on the screen, but the person in the middle could only ever have a shotgun. So you kind of like in between levels, you'd swap around and take turns being the other person, as long as you just, like no one had died.
Do you remember the House of the Dead game that's got like a samurai sword instead?
No, I haven't seen that.
What's the technology where it's like a frame and there are infrared beams being fired through it, and the game can tell where your hand is.
Oh wow!
Because you cut the beams in different places within
I've
this
not
frame.
seen that. That's got to be fairly recent.
It's
one,
fairly
isn't it?
recent. So there's a game with a samurai sword. So you wave the sword around to kill zombies. It's very much like House of the Dead, but samurai.
Yeah.
Samurai of the Dead. But if anyone knows what it's called, write in. Let us know.
And
Podcast at SNEW with the crew.
I think the only other one I completed was probably back in like East Cowes, the opposite side of the river to where we are. There was an old arcade inside what used to be a pub, but was converted into like a cafe with an arcade downstairs and someone's house upstairs. And they had one of sit-down Daytona USA.
Oh yeah,
and I managed to actually like finish in first in all the races once. Like, and I think it was only 5 tracks, but that's fucking hardcore. Like,
all of those Sega races were difficult.
Yeah, but I managed it once.
Rally,
and I was
Sega Rally is very difficult, but I'm very good at it though.
Was
Daytona wasn't as difficult as Sega Rally, but it was still pretty hard.
It's all about the power slides.
Yeah,
Sega Rally.
I was pretty good at Virtual Racer, but again. Those games
I'm
are hard.
far more old school than that. I really liked the Super Hang-On Ride-On version. Everybody
one.
You actually sat on a bike and you leaned in the
first game I remember sitting on and it moved was Space Harrier.
Yes.
Do you remember a lot of arcade games? There would be more than one version of the arcade machine.
Yeah, there was different versions.
You would
of the
get
cabinet.
like the premium version, which had like the sit-down cab.
The classic
of that
is
like a stand-up version, like
Star Wars cabinet, isn't it? I mean, the one you sit in and that was fantastic.
Yeah, the Star Wars had a special controller, didn't it?
Was that a Star Wars trilogy one or?
No, that would have just been
Star Wars. So it's just line drawings, right, of spaceships, the TIE
Do you
fighters
know
flying
why
towards
Star
you
Wars is so rare?
Because it got reused.
Because they rebranded it
for
for Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
So you a lot of the Star Wars cabinets got rebranded to Empire.
Cool.
Because and then actually the Return of the Jedi video game's completely different.
Yeah.
Because I had the Star Wars trilogy video games probably on the Amstrad or Amiga, and they were both wireframe.
Yeah.
They're famously wireframe.
Yeah.
Because we've got the Star Wars trilogy one at a local place where we do the beer festival.
Yeah, it's a completely different.
But yeah, that was like a later one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came out.
That's
like
the only
2000
Star Wars one
like
of 1998.
Hang on, where we do the bit? What, the Waverley Park?
They got Star Wars trilogy arcade.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, they have got Star Wars. Yeah, I walked.
Yeah.
Because as I was leaving, I looked and I was like, oh no, they got Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the
trilogy
1998 one, and it's amazing.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Just to jump really far forward from that, while we're talking about Star Wars, there's this new one called Star Wars Battle Pod, and the big one is the size of this room, and you sit in it, and the screen curves, so it takes up all of your peripheral vision.
Right.
And once I found it in arcade in Vegas, I just looked out for it everywhere we went, and Anna would just be like, I've just got to stand around while you play this for half an hour now.
Are we going to see Vegas, or are we just a whole holiday?
And it was like $3 a go as well, and I was just like, oh fuck it, I'll just put a tenner in there.
You're flying back to have another go at some point.
Yeah, we are, but that's not the reason.
Wouldn't it be cheaper to just buy the machine?
Yeah, but Star Wars
Maybe actually,
not great. Pod racing game's pretty good though.
Yeah.
Again, that is one where they had the really good version where you actually sat in a pod.
Yeah.
And then there was the more
You actually feel like you're piloting something because of the way it moves as well.
and the funky controller, like
the first sit-on one I played, other than like one of the sort of World Superbike Championships ones where you sat on the motorbike just racing like Silverstone and stuff, was the what was it called? Prop Cycle. Went up to, is it Tocadera they used to have in London, the Sega arcade place?
Yeah, I think so.
On the South Bank, they had like a massive arcade with like 5 floors.
Cool.
And they had like a virtual reality helmet with some games you could play, and there was like all the new Sony stuff as PS1 was coming out, and then like they had all the old arcade machines. One of them was the prop cycle, and you literally sat on this big yellow push bike, and you had to actually cycle to get your thing to go along, and then had the handlebars, and you had to control. But the more you cycled, the higher you would get, and then you had to kind of like stop cycling to drop down to go through the rings. And that was like the first time I've been on one that wasn't just leaning and racing. It was actually like trying to control it with your pedaling and leaning, and yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
The first big cabinet, like moving, like more simulator style one I ever played on was Afterburner. Actually, there was a massive version of that, wasn't there?
Did anyone? Sorry, carry on.
That was like more kind of It was you moving the joystick that moved the cabinet around, wasn't it? So rather than being controlled by the game itself, you were physically pushing the cabinet around with the stick. I think, possibly. It made it a tough game.
Yeah,
really tough game. But yeah, great fun.
Didn't translate well for the home console, I don't think, because you needed that sort of. See, that's the thing with the arcades. They captured something, didn't they? It was just the cabinet. It was the atmosphere. It was.
You could tell how well your arcade was doing by whether or not they got big cabinet games in now and then, or whether they just got the upright version.
As much as I loved the big cabinets, like House of the Dead and things like that, those big event games, there's nothing beats just a row of those generic cabs with like every 2-player fighting game. I mean, like Dungeons and Dragons, and then Double Dragon, and then Golden Axe, all those co-op like.
You've just mentioned 2 of the games that I've completed in the arcade.
Oh I suppose I've completed Golden Axe.
And Double Dragon. Come on,
Final Fight. Everyone's done Final Fight, haven't they?
I don't think I've ever completed Final Fight, but I know now, thinking about, I've just, all the memories just come flooding back. I remember.
We should explain what some of these games look like.
Especially playing all of these games we're talking about are at least 2-player cooperative sideways scrolling.
2D sideways scrolling,
So Final Fight's the one with Hagar and
Cody and
Guy.
So it's a side-scrolling 3D beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Fighting against gangs, trying to clean up the streets.
Some would argue the greatest of all the beat 'em up.
Was it? It was like before, like the Streets of Rage, wasn't it?
It was similar to Streets of Rage. I don't think that ever got.
No, that was never an arcade cab, but it was like the same sort of. For anyone that's played console games, like in the early days, that's the closest sort.
Final Fight was one of those games that was clearly better in the arcade because it was almost undoable at home because the sprites were fucking huge.
Yeah,
they were massive. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and you just didn't have the compute back those. Like the home ports of like some of those games are terrible. Whereas Double Dragon,
the closest of that is I think they did quite a good job.
Probably quite close.
The Amiga was fairly close.
But I bet it's letterbox to fuck.
Super Nintendo did really well with it.
Yeah,
only
true,
two of the characters. Yeah.
Was that when Medway were porting a lot of stuff for Nintendo? Because they did all the Mortal Kombats, didn't they?
Am I imagining it, or was there a crossover character between Streets of Rage and Final Fight?
Axe.
No, I was thinking Guy. He's definitely in Street Fighter Alpha.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he's got a cameo in there, hasn't he? But I think that's all the whole crossover.
Yeah, I think
thing,
all 3 of them basically. I'm sure Hagar turns up in something, but they're all Capcom games, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think it's imperative at this point we talk about Street Fighter.
Yeah, well,
Street Fighter is another game that I completed in the arcade. Was Street Fighter 2?
I was going to say Street Fighter 2. I mean, Street Fighter 1 was, let's face it,
I played the shit out of Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter 2, yeah. Street Fighter 1, those different kettle of fish.
Did anyone ever play the where they hacked, the ROMs got hacked?
Yeah.
And
I heard about
it. The one in our common room at college was like you would do the you just do a fireball and just 3 of them will go across the screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which you think, that makes it really easy, but no, the computer still doesn't know that it's. So the computer still goes through its moveset that it does against you at whatever difficulty level you choose to play it at, and it just destroys you.
And Vega, when he did his little jumpy off the wall thing, like he'd fire a fireball and things like that as well.
Yeah, and it did stupid things like you could jump up in the air and then do a fireball. So you could jump up and just do 3 fireballs across the top of the screen, then just land and go, just do fireballs. It was stupid. In hindsight, it was bollocks actually. But,
Yeah.
But it's still not the greatest fighting game we've ever had in an arcade cab. Like,
Go on then, what is it?
Hands down Mortal Kombat series.
no way.
Yeah.
No.
Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat's not as good as Street Fighter.
Yeah, easily better. Like, I used to spend hours on Mortal Kombat 2 in an arcade, and I had all the top scores. I'd completed the arcade mode a few times with different characters.
I like the button layout on Mortal Kombat. It's
Yeah.
like a number 5 on a dice, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was like
You had the nice, like, you could do the top 2 buttons, and then your thumb could do the bottom 2, and you could just slip to the middle button from any finger, and you just hold the stick with your left hand and clack round to get the moves for certain sort of certain power moves and that.
So what's the general vibe between us all? I mean, it was always about, well, it's about the big three, isn't it? Your racers, your shoot 'em ups, and your beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a preference, haven't they? About their favourite type. Are we going to do a top favourite for each genre, or are we just going to say, look, beat 'em ups were the
I
best,
think
or
this is
shoot 'em
where
ups
we
were the
come in
best?
with a question from a viewer.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Go for it.
Because I think it might be slightly different for all of us, and that might encompass part of this genre thing. We can
Right.
go back to that afterwards as
Good
well
plan.
and get into it a bit more.
Let's go for it.
So we have a question from Jamie Howard.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello, Jamie.
hello.
And the question is, which game do you guys think is better, Turtles in Time or Turtles 2? And what is your favourite game?
Okay, I don't think I ever played any other Turtles game in the arcade other than the Konami kind of...
I think that's what all three
Side-scrolling
of
one.
you have said before the show, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
you've not-
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4-player cab. There's another cab that had a good version and a not so
Yeah.
good version.
Yeah.
So
true.
for me, it was Turtles in Time because I've played all 3 Turtles games that I remember playing on the arcades, which was Turtles 2, Turtles in Time, and then the original one. So yeah, I can answer that question of Turtles in Time because it was just hilarious.
How does Turtles in
What-
Time work? What's the deal?
It's a same again, side-scrolling 4-player or 2-player.
They're all Konami, yeah?
Yeah. And it's the same thing. You're going along, but it was just each level was a different period of time, and the Turtles were trying to find Shredder, and they're working way from caveman times back through. It's basically the Batman
Fuck,
story
Batman
before
time
Batman.
bullet.
Yeah, it's before he did that. And it's basically the same thing. You're a boss at the end of each level. And you just you go through all the time periods leading back to fighting Shredder with Krang in the background in his giant suit shooting eye beams across the screen occasionally, and you just
Right.
got to get out of the way.
But the natural progression from those games were... Do you remember the Simpsons one?
Yeah,
And-
that's another
and
game
the
that I
X-Men
completed on the
one as
arcade.
well.
Yeah, the X-Men.
The X-Men
one was
I never
And I
did,
can't
but-
remember I can't remember all the exact facts, but I don't know whether it's the Simpsons or the X-Men, or if it was turned the game from 4-player into 8-player. But the big versions of those cabs had
6
seats.
player.
They were sit down and they were across multiple screens.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the
Weren't they?
6-player ones of X-Men. You had the 6-player version, which was the big
And
sit-down one.
Was that the same for the Simpsons?
It was
Simpsons
only
was only
4-player,
4 characters.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, X-Men went the full whack and went 6-player. But yeah, all the others were only ever 4-player. I think that was the biggest machine you could get. But do you count those side-scrolling beat-em-ups as the same as Street Fighter and stuff? I
Yeah,
think
they're just
different.
beat,
I think
but
they're
they're still
different.
beat 'em
I think
ups,
they're very
aren't they?
different. Yeah, but I
But
think
it's
they're
like I
different.
don't differentiate vertical shooters and side-scrolling shooters.
No, but I think you've got the side-scrolling beat 'em ups.
Where
They take you're on a journey. You go and
As
you're
a
interacting
team.
with a team,
Yeah.
and you're interacting with
Whereas-
because these certain games you can smash up the scenery, can't you, and use it as
Yeah,
weapons
yeah.
and throw people through it and stuff like that. But then you've got your versus units,
Yeah.
which have a different. I think they're a different.
Yeah,
ball
because you
game
never had
altogether,
that with
aren't they?
Simpsons. You never had the versus each other bits. You just had the and
Just-
the X-Men. You just had the sort of doing the game together, side-scrolling along,
Yeah, yeah.
beating bad guys up. So to me, they are totally different types of
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, one's co-op, one's competitive. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
What I've just realised is any Mega Drive owners who gush over Streets of Rage, it's because you didn't spend enough time in the arcade. Because there's no Streets of Rage game is better than almost all of the games we mentioned.
Yeah. I like Streets of Rage, but yeah.
Golden
I
Axe
don't
is my
know.
all-time favourite, I've got to say.
I've got to defend
Yeah.
Streets of Rage there. I mean, Double Dragon. I think the legend is stronger than the actual game. If you go back and play that
Yeah.
game now, it's
I've got a good one.
Streets of Rage 2, though.
Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja.
again it's a
great
fun
one.
Never heard
one,
of that one.
No?
but it's not a good when you. all the enemies die in one hit. There's no actual. I like to.
There are some tough
them.
ones, but
Yeah.
What's the one where you had to, the guys rode on a motorbikes and you had to jump kick them off?
Oh, Road Rage. No, Road Rash.
No, it's a beat 'em up, isn't it?
That's with you on a
It was one of my favourites actually.
Target Renegade?
No. Oh yeah, you've got Target Renegade, but that was that was Renegade actually. You're thinking it was one guy, but they took the same idea and put it into a game called Two Crude Dudes.
Two Crude Dudes.
And it's basically just it's mental. It's like I was going to say wrestling on steroids, but imagine wrestling on mega steroids.
Okay.
It's fucking
Sega
mental. You're picking up cars and throwing them at people, and it's bonkers.
Oh yeah, no, I do remember that.
Yeah.
And
that's a co-op.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous.
There's a modern game called Broforce, which kind of
very similar. Yeah, that's the same premise of that.
Yeah.
They've basically picked up the premise of that one. It's brilliant. Yeah.
What about side-scrolling, like beat 'em ups, but with guns? So you had
Contra.
Like what? Sorry,
Contra was brilliant.
What was Contra?
It was had two names in it. It was Contra and what was the other name? You had a UK name, didn't it?
Alien Breed?
No, that's.
Do you know what I mean, though?
I know what you mean. Yeah, but that almost.
Shit, what was Contra called in the UK?
It'll come to me later. Oh, what is it?
I never really played the ones with guns. It was all about the fist fighting for me.
There was one called Narc as well.
Narc was good.
That was again,
but not
same
as
sort of thing.
Good as what was it called? Bloody hell, Mercs.
Mercs
was even better. Mercs was brilliant.
Hang on, Mercs, is that not a 2D one?
It's a sort of it's from above view, so it's similar to Commando. But it was sort of when you have that diagonal axis, so it sort of travels diagonally,
almost like isometric.
Isometric, but not. And it's fucking mental.
Okay,
it's brilliant. It's Commando on steroids. There you go. Which is it's stupid that I keep saying that because all the games, most of them always had that other on, didn't they? The winners don't take drugs.
Right.
So I think that's why.
Don't take drugs.
Yeah.
But then we've got those. You've got racing games. You've got the side-scrolling beat 'em ups. You've got the versus beat 'em ups. You've got the like shooters and stuff.
Yep.
But then you've got stuff like Smash TV.
Oh my lord, that is
Smash
a masterpiece of a game. That is.
Smash TV was a reimagining of
Robotron.
Well, it's Robotron 2084. I think it's called.
Yeah, it was the same premise, wasn't it?
Same premise of that, and it's
great. I had the multi-tap adapter thingy for my Amiga, and I remember because
just destroyed.
If you don't know what Smash TV is, it was the first game that you had. You had two joysticks, so you moved with one stick. It's a twin stick. By modern terms, it's called a twin stick shooter, and it was the first. Well, it was the second twin stick shooter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
After Robotron, and you could play 2-player co-op on the Amiga if you had the splitter. But you both had to have two joysticks.
Yeah. Forgotten Worlds.
So
that was another
good.
one. Really difficult to play because it was the twin stick idea.
Yeah.
But Smash TV, if anybody's never played it, it's basically it's Running Man turned up to 5 million.
It's basically
It's
like
ridiculous.
Arcade from the X-Men has merged with Mojo and gone, let's recreate the Running Man, but put Arnie on steroids and throw in some weird psychedelic shit. It's such a good game.
It's like mutated cyborg creatures and stuff as bad bosses, and
it's just bonkers. There's some of the more obscure ones though. I mean, the ones that stick in my memory that they were just sort of forbidden fruit back in the day. I think it was because it's like what Ross was saying about his dad didn't like certain things to be. I'm guessing you were never allowed anywhere near Splatterhouse 2.
Oh yeah, but I used to go to the arcade. I used to go to the arcade.
Slaughterhouse, no?
Slaughterhouse.
Splatterhouse.
The one with like Jason Voorhees type character. Yeah.
Slaughterhouse.
Fucking brilliant game. I loved that game, and it was such an area. I mean, as a kid growing up and then looking at that, and you knew that the character it was ripped off, but what did you just sneak off and play in the arcade? Yeah, that was amazing.
Going out on my bike.
Yeah.
Have you got a pocket full of 20? Nah.
So
penny chews.
Yeah, my mate has a pub with like arcade machines in, like old school stuff, and we were chatting about this the other day, and I looked up a particular game, and I recognised the name when someone else mentioned it, and then we looked at the images, and I remember it, but I don't remember much about it, but it was called Ninja Baseball Batman.
Ninja Baseball Batman.
Yeah. And it's just a cartoon character with baseball bats.
Yeah.
And it's like an side-scrolling adventure.
It was a bit like Dynamite Ducks. It's fucked. It's
absolutely
weird.
mental.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I must have played it at some point because it looks so familiar to me. But for the life of me, I can't think where I would have played it at any point.
There was some really good at that time, the late 80s, early 90s. There was some really good bonkers beat 'em ups from coming out of Japan because the technology had really peaked to be able to do that two-way, the team sideway scrollers, and they were sort of really
collaborative effort type jobbing.
Yeah, and they were really
here's
competing against each other for
Silkworm.
Now that's a blaster though, isn't it? That's a sideways shooter.
Oh, sorry, were you talking beat 'em ups?
No, that's a brilliant one.
That's amazing.
As a co-op, that was really good.
You could play it on your own, but it was never the same. You know, you could be the Jeep or the helicopter.
Yeah.
But unless it was both of you on the screen, it just didn't feel the same.
I think it changed axes as well between its sequel, didn't it? I think
the
first
sequel
one was
Swiv.
sideways, and then
Swiv
was top down, wasn't it?
Was that ever an arcade though, Swiv? I think it was a home release only, wasn't it?
Was it? Was it just somebody ripped it off?
Could be.
Okay, another sideways beat 'em up then that was kind of breaking the mold a little bit. Moonwalker.
Oh,
that was good, actually.
Yeah.
It's not sideways though; it's isometric.
It's isometric.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I
it
actually
changed,
really like that.
didn't it? The actual gameplay changed somehow. Oh no, you turned into the robot. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
You could hold down the
Hence
button.
why I like it.
And like, and
Dunk, and everybody dies.
Well, there was that one special move. You could make them all do the lean,
yeah,
and they couldn't do it, and they'd fall over.
Oh yeah.
That was ridiculous.
A lot of
because wasn't
beat-em-ups
some of
like
that
that
side scrolling, and then certain bits were isometric, and certain bits were more like standard platformers.
Well,
I think probably
Drive.
the home port was more. They have a tendency to do that with home ports, where you would have multiple genres in one game.
Right, because I remember
and they do that
playing
with
it
movie
in the
tie-ins.
arcade,
Would be
but
multiple
I also
genres.
remember playing it at home, and my home
The
one
Mega Drive
didn't-
version was just side scrolling.
Yeah.
Right,
okay.
And it was terrible.
Cracking sideways shooter.
Fantastic.
Robocop, good game.
I remember spending a lot of time at Butlins playing Robocop when my
It's
family
hard.
were off
It was
doing
all.
other
It was
things.
quite easy up until the point where the guys turn up with the big guns at the end. They fired those balls across the screen that you could barely jump.
Even Ed 209 at the end of the first
I could never
level,
get past him,
he
be
was
honest
a bit
with
of a fucker, wasn't he?
I'd pass over to my friend.
Talking of games where they just have dirty boss fights that just are money sinks, aren't they?
Yeah.
Turtles was one of them.
Yeah.
Massively.
So, like, the first boss fight was fairly doable. The second level was fairly doable, but like once you get that second boss fight, it's just so difficult.
Just getting through the
you're
third
pumping
level
the money
to the
in,
third
aren't you?
boss was
It's
hard enough.
Bebop and
but-
Rocksteady, you get them together at some point, I think, don't you? And
Maybe they were the third.
Yeah.
That's
they're
like
the
you
third
get them
boss, I think. Yeah.
get them together as a third boss, and it's just it's fucked up. And then, but the thing is, when they release them for console, you don't want to play them because what's the point of just having infinite money?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, that's the thing I loved about Mortal Kombat 2 at the arcade I used to go to. My favourite thing was standing there, and I'd be playing through the arcade mode, and someone would come in and go, "Oh, challenger," and I go, "Yeah, right." And any point while you're playing arcade mode, someone could put a coin in and press the button, and as long as you then press the start button to the like you would to sort of pause normally, because you could pause Mortal Kombat 2, but if you press that start button when someone else had come in, you could then just go into a versus mode, and I'd stand and play for like 4 hours non-stop, just beating everyone as Scorpion. Like, everyone would come in and just try and beat me, and I had all the top scores on the
Is
machine.
that the old
Pretty
"Get
cheap
over
character
here"
Yeah,
move?
yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cheap character to do that with, isn't he? Though.
But I just I do like the backwards teleport to the other side of them, pull them in with the reel, uppercut them into the air, teleport into the air and kick them down, then jump to the other side of them, do the hook again, and I just do the same sort of sequence of 8 moves with a few punches and uppercuts in between, and I just stand there for hours just playing over and over. And
That's the
It's
thing.
like that
I'd
episode.
only-
He's that kid from that episode of The Simpsons.
I'd put like 2 coins.
He is, yeah.
I'd put like 2 10p's in, and I'd be able to finish the arcade mode.
Brilliant.
Like, because I got that good at it. And then when other people started coming in, they'd be putting coins in, and I'd just be stood there still on my first 2 coins.
It's just not technical enough for me.
Loving
I've
it.
got to say. Mortal Kombat.
It's ridiculously technical.
Well-
You cannot do any of the special moves without having the perfect movement of the stick and hitting the buttons in the right
Still not
sequence.
as technical as Tekken, though.
Yeah, but the Tekken arcades were like, there was a whole other like thing with the buttons by that point. That wasn't
See,
the same
to me,
level
Tekken
of...
doesn't feel like an arcade
No,
game at
it's-
all. It's just a
No, that's-
PlayStation game.
yeah,
That's
But-
PlayStation
yeah.
for me.
In
Yeah.
honesty, the first time I ever played Tekken on the arcade was when, in an arcade, was when I was travelling at the time. And I think I was in Singapore. I
Right.
found a massive arcade that had all sorts of like, well, just cabinets where you could just play against other people. So Tekken, there was a row of about 10 of these cabinets, and they're back to back. So every now and then you'd be playing through the arcade, and then somebody would come along and sit on the one opposite you, and boom, you're fighting them, and they were all fucking incredible. And I just every time somebody
Like, hey, white
jumped
boy.
in, I'd be like, "Fuck, shit, you bunch of bloody."
But
bastards.
they had the thing where you could press 2 buttons at once and it would do a special type of move that you couldn't do by pressing 1 button, whereas Mortal Kombat, it was all about the speed in which you did the combination of button sequences.
That would
and
be
the
counters.
So-
Counters and throws would be 2 buttons, yeah.
But some of those counters and throws linked with a certain movement would create a certain... I
Yeah,
like it, but like...
10
the
hit
Mortal
and 10
Kombat
throw and 5 throw
hardcore-
combos. and
Just
stuff,
different
yeah.
types of autism.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
I just loved the old days of having to be about speed and technique of the stick rather than like you couldn't do the grabs in an easy way back then. But then that's me.
Yeah, but Tekken's got that Jackie Chan character in it, hasn't it?
Shang Tsung?
Yeah, no.
It's got
no,
a Bruce Lee
that's
character
more-
It's
in
got
it.
Bruce Lee,
Oh,
it's got
Shang-
Jackie
oh,
Chan.
Shang. What's his name?
I forget his name, but
Liu
it's-
Shang. No,
I think it is.
no. Liu Kang is Mortal Kombat.
No, Liu Kang, and then you got
Shang. Because it's SHIA.
Chang Li.
And
No, is
Chun
it
Li
Shang-
is Street
Yeah.
Fighter 2.
Shang.
It's Chang Lai, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
LEI,
Shang-Li,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah, because he's got the hat he takes off, and
Yeah.
it's got the blades around the rim.
I think so.
If we
That's
could,
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
No, there's a guy in Tekken that does that. He's got like a big hat, and he looks a bit like
The guy
Bruce
I'm
Lee.
thinking of,
That's
it's-
Yoshimitsu.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
I'm thinking of is Jackie Chan straight out of Police Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the gun holster, and yeah.
that's we just mentioned a character from my favourite fighting game series,
Which was that?
Yoshimitsu.
Yoshimitsu.
Oh, he
He's
crossed
turns up
over
everywhere
as
though,
well,
doesn't he?
yeah.
Soul Calibur, mate.
Soul
Yeah.
Calibur, what a game.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Because he did that.
What's the first one called?
Soul
Called Soul
Blade.
Blade, though.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Soul Blade.
Because he was in Soul
But again,
Blades.
I remember playing that loads at the arcade, but to me, it's always a PlayStation game.
Yeah,
Is
fair
it-
enough.
Because he was in Tony Hawk's as well, Yoshimitsu.
Is he?
As a bonus character in one
Really?
of them. Yeah, he turns
He's
up in so
absolutely
many other
incredible
games.
in first Soul Calibur because he just does the most ridiculous. He does pogos around on his weapon, doesn't
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
He's like a complete mental demon.
'Cause was
He's
he
got
a-
that
was he
suicide move as well. Have you seen
originally
that?
in
Yeah, he is originally
Yeah.
a Tekken character.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah.
originally Tekken.
He
then.
Yeah.
You
can kill yourself.
seppukus himself,
Yeah.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's one of his grab moves, isn't it? I think.
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah, and he can just kill himself.
You can do it on Tekken
Nothing's
as well.
as creepy as Voldo. No.
Oh,
With
Voldo
all his
is the
little-
Gimp
Oh, yeah,
Master.
yeah, true.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He looks like the guy from Farscape, doesn't he?
Oh,
The
yeah,
weird,
he does,
the
yeah.
weird dream guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Forgot about that.
My favourite character, there's an nunchuck guy, and he's
In
he
Soul
isn't-
Calibur.
Soul Calibur, but in Soul Blade, you know, they all have those weird catchphrases.
Yeah.
I don't know what his was or what language it was meant to be, but it sounds like "Holy old numbnuts," and then he go, "I'll kill yous." And
I'll
he
kill
when he
yous.
had, because you had 2 skins for each character. It's when you give him the skinhead and he looked like a dirty mank. "I'll kill yous," and it was just ridiculous. So yeah,
brilliant.
I was a soft spot for that game.
I still think it's one of my favourite games ever, and I don't really know why. And I think if I played it now, I'd be like, it's not very good. APB. Have you, any of you ever played a game called APB?
absolutely. Where you have to
It's got
like
yeah.
run down the
Police one.
It's got.
you're a police car and you've got to run
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
the burglars and stuff and catch criminals.
It's better than
Yes.
that sounds though, because it had a really
If-
cool art style.
One of the
and,
earlier
it was just full of
GTAs,
gags, wasn't it?
Switch between 2 different types of game as well, didn't it?
Not
Well, sort of. You've actually picked up on a bit. I was going to try and bring up like crowbar into the conversation in a bit. But
Right.
It was a period of time when you'd have sort of elements in games that you could never ever get away with now because they were no longer PC or just really acceptable. Yeah, in that game you'd catch your criminal, wouldn't you? And then you'd interrogate him and beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it was that. And there's quite a few games I can think of. One of my favourites is the Crime Busters series, and you could knife people, you could kick them in the nuts and things like that, and they'd hop around holding their bits. But in Crime Busters 3, I think it is, there's a very dubious character, dressed similar to Voldo, looking an awful lot like Freddie Mercury.
Right.
With a rather mincy walk, and his attack he'd hump you.
Amazing.
What was Crime Busters?
Crime Busters was like a series. It's very similar to it was that sideways scrolling
like Streets
co-op.
of Rage.
It was like like Streets of Rage, or
but
like
with smaller characters, like a much smaller.
That was the Crime Fighters
Sprite.
First one, yeah, the first one.
I have played this. You'd get on trains and stuff and go fighting in the underground stations.
There was four. There was four others. There was a four in the total.
I think I must have played a later one.
Yeah, the later one is larger sprites, and you get this one character.
I remember him. Yeah,
and I remember sitting down playing this game with my little boy and saying, "Have a look at these old arcade machines." And then this character came on, and me and my wife just looked at each other. Oh shit!
Whoops! What we done?
What we gonna do? And it's just, And he's what's he doing? He's just dancing with you. He's dancing
having a cuddle.
He's dancing you to death, my friend. Yeah, and So any of you remember any games and you've come across, and it's like Splatterhouse. I mean, that would be sort of
there's games
a little bit now.
There's games like that now, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
They brought out that game on the Nintendo, which for the sort of family console, they brought out a game where it's all black and white except for the blood.
Ah, right. Okay.
And your character has got a chainsaw, and you basically it's called Madhouse.
Madhouse, yeah.
And you just walk around scenery, like there's sort of a storyline. And it's kind of like Smash TV. You're in a TV show and you go through sections and you've got to entertain the audience and you're basically just hacking people to shit.
It's got a age rating on it, though.
Oh, yeah, of course it has, But it's just like lots of that stuff has kind of continued. It's just changed and evolved, I think.
Yeah.
There was a game called Fractions that I remember playing in an arcade, but I have a funny feeling the arcade that I used to go in, one of the cabinets in the corner, there was a guy already, way before anyone else, who was so nerdy on it all, just putting any old game he could into it. And so one of them was called Fractions, and basically it was one of those machines that had one stick, 4 buttons, and then over to the side it had your start button on top and 2, like a green and a red button.
Right.
It's very rare that you'd get a cabinet like that, but there's one of those, and basically the red and the green button took you between the screen where you're doing stuff and like a lower screen, or the lower half of the screen, where there was like a front of an old VHS player, and you had pause, play, record, skip track, rewind, fast forward, and all these things, and then like options. So you'd go through the stick and set up the options. So you'd go along to like a weapons bit and choose the weapon, then characters and change the amount of numbers and things like that. And then you'd jump back up to the top screen and it would play, and characters would walk onto the screen and just start firing weapons at each other and killing each other in horrendous ways, and you can control one of them on one side and run in and just attack things.
When you said Fractions, I thought you meant like a maths game.
Well, yeah, that's what it... Because I remember years later getting that game on a floppy disk for Amiga.
Factions, no?
No, Fractions. But it was because I got it on a floppy disk years later from someone who knew the guys that ran that place. So I reckon what he'd done is it was a game on the Amiga, but he'd managed to get it on working on that cabinet.
Right.
And it's quite a complex thing, and I've never been able to find any record of it anywhere since. It's so annoying. I don't think that's actually what it was called, but that's just what it was called on the screen and on the disc. But yeah, Fractions, you're chopping people up into bits.
Maybe somebody out there knows what it is, but that sounds bonkers. But yeah, there was quite a few games. Do you remember any at all, Ross, that sort of crossed the line a little bit?
Because obviously Mortal
weren't
Kombat
actually
again
suitable
was
for children, for instance.
Mortal Kombat was one of the first ones, wasn't it, that people got really angry about because it was so
loads of
blatant.
Before that, it was
But
Pit
yeah.
Fighter, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that
Pit
really
Fighter.
caused
Yeah.
a stink.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time you'd ever had. Well, it wasn't the first time you'd had digitised characters. That was that weird hologram thing that Sega tried producing.
With the cowboy.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh shit! Yes, I was meant to talk about that. In that cabinet,
Yeah,
and
it was
had
like
a
a
really
dome.
tiny screen, but it was shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
But
dreadful.
it was a
But
hologram.
at
and
the
you were
same
playing
time,
a hologram.
it felt like you were in Star Wars.
Yeah,
didn't
it felt like I was watching Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi.
If they'd have got the license for the Star Wars chess for that,
It
it
was
was
amazing.
Yeah.
It was the same type of
What was it
game as
called?
Dragon's Lair, wasn't it?
yeah, like it just just bullshit pattern recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At its absolute worst.
Yeah.
Like all those awful, like video shooters
Yeah.
on the Mega CD.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sega was terrible for churning out games
Yeah,
like that.
true. Very true.
They came out in the arcades as well, didn't they? Like the
Think
cowboy
so, yeah.
ones.
Oh
like-
yeah.
So they would have a gun. It would
Um,
be full motion video. It'd be real actors and stuff, wouldn't it? Like Space Pirates as well. Was one of them.
McCree.
Yeah, yeah,
Mad Dog McCree.
Mad Dog
Mad Dog
McCree.
McCree,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
yeah. I remember that one.
With the shooting the bottles as
Yeah.
a bonus round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, take your best shot.
Yeah, that's the one.
And then there was that police.
I remember that
police.
because it used to go off in the background in a pub I
Is
worked
it
in.
Police Story?
They had one in there, and it was just the same person just going, "Go on, take your best shot," and just say it every so often. So annoying.
Did any of you ever do that thing where you were just like you didn't have any money and you just stand and play the demo? Like if you
Could
were
you play
like
the
your
demo?
dad was a cute. No, you would
Oh, you
stand and
pretend
you would
to
just be
play
playing
it.
the demo,
No.
wouldn't you?
No, I'm not that weird.
Playing
I'd
the demo.
just stand there and watch other people play it. I mean, I didn't even have to spend anything. It was just
Shoulder watching.
yeah, completely. Yeah.
I didn't mind that if it was someone that was really good, and then like every so often when I did have a bit of money, they were the sort of person that would challenge me to a game, and like sometimes I'd lose and sometimes I'd win, unless it was a Mortal Kombat.
I liked it when it was
But-
someone shit because you'd end up being able to chip in. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
I
Tell him.
can't do it. I'll
Yeah,
do it. I'll
jump
do
up
it for
there.
you.
Jump up there. Jump up there. Jump up there. Jump up there.
Yeah.
I want to just mention well, Chris, you look like you were going to say something. So
It's all right, you carry on.
I should have followed up APB with this, but I went to the toilet again. That doesn't mean
Rubbish.
again because you won't have known.
Old
I've been
bladder.
twice this evening because it was on a different podcast.
So yeah, check out our
yeah,
other podcast for that. So
Thrilling.
thrilling, thrilling moment.
Time travel.
Chase HQ.
Yes.
And then it's Far Superior Follow Up, Special Criminal Investigation 2.
Yep.
What were those?
I don't know.
They
those.
were
Right.
fantastic.
So
Were they-
Chase HQ
it was basically Miami Vice, wasn't it?
So you're behind, same view as Road Rash and what's the one on the
Outrun?
Ferrari?
Outrun.
Yeah.
But you're a police
Oh,
car.
and you'd have to knock the criminals
and
off
you have
the
to
road.
bash them
Yeah, yeah.
enough times that
Yeah.
they would pull over, right? But Special Criminal Investigations 2, which made it better by your car was open top, and so your co-pilot, your partner, sorry,
Yeah.
so you drove. It still had the up and down shift and then turbo boost, but you also had a button to shoot your gun. And
Right.
so your co-pilot would get out of the sunroof and fire.
Oh,
So,
I remember that.
Special Criminal
Yeah.
Investigation
Brilliant.
2. You
Amazing.
had to, and I was pretty good at that game,
Cool.
and it was better than it's
Don't think
better
I
than
ever played
Chase HQ. But it's also just reminded me of another game like that, which I suppose today you'd go, it's a bit like Mario Kart. But what was the one that was a like buggy game, but it went all up and down, and
Boogie Boy.
was that what it's called?
Yeah.
And it had like the almost like roller coaster style tracks.
Wasn't it like basically like the first Mario Kart and Wipeout all in one?
No, there was two. There was Boogie Boy and there was Power Drift.
Oh yeah, I think it might be Power Drift.
Could be Power Drift. Yeah.
Road
Yeah, that's
Blasters.
another good
Do you remember
driving
that?
game.
Road Blasters was a great little concept.
So
yeah, I like
you'd
that.
add bits to your car
Yep.
and like get different
Right.
powers and stuff.
Well, that became eventually, I mean, Supercars 2 on the Amiga. That's where they borrowed an awful lot of the ideas from. But that, if you've ever played that, Supercars 2,
Right, no, never played
that's
it.
it's basically it's Road Blasters, and there was another game called Leadstorm
Okay.
that was very similar idea, and suppose they both took the idea from Spy Hunter, didn't they?
That's what I was
Spy
about to
Hunter's
try and
Yeah.
work
Butte.
out the name of. So it's where you come out of the back of a truck.
That's it, yeah.
So,
Like,
yeah,
go on
and-
Michael Knight on it,
Yeah.
and then
that's
off
it.
you go. And then you could turn into a speedboat at one point.
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
you?
that's right, yeah.
Great game, yeah.
I
Wow.
remember that one in a local bus station, and it was right underneath one of the domes outside a little cafe, and like people would be spending hours playing that one.
They were always in some really obscure places, weren't they? We used to go and play Final Fight, and it was in a video shop, but upstairs where he'd sell off all these old 18s and porn movies. So we'd be surrounded by all this as teen boys, and then there was arcades as well. It was fantastic. But it was so dingy and seedy. But they
So
were
what's the weirdest place you've gone to play? Obviously that's yours.
Yeah, that's-
but like,
that's
what
mine,
what
yeah.
other weird places have you found arcade machines? Like,
What, and played them because I was there?
yeah,
Don't know, really.
I try to think like obviously like in the adult section of a video shop's pretty weird.
Yeah.
I think there was a clothes shop in Ryde years ago, and I think the only reason they had a cabinet in there was because when the mums came in school holidays with their kids, all they could do to keep the kids occupied was there was a box of Transformers and a cabinet. So the kids would either be sat with the Transformers or taking turns on the cabinet while their mums were shopping and wandering around the
Oh,
shops.
it'd
It
be
was
so
like
torn.
3 floors. So like it was just that's probably one of the weirdest places I've ever seen a cabinet before.
Don't think there's anywhere particularly weird. Fish and chip shops, I always found that was a bit strange.
Yeah,
Because, you
yeah.
know,
or
why
in the
would you...
Chinese as
Yeah.
well.
Well,
Yeah.
Chinese is more understandable because at least you'd have some time before your food's ready. Fish and chips, it's pretty
Yeah, it's
instantaneous, isn't
pretty quick, isn't it?
it? Yeah. Instant fast
It was
food.
back those days anyway.
Well,
And
yeah.
there's fucking queuing, mate.
There's
In and out.
too many people in
There's
the world.
loads of,
We need
no,
a
it's not
flood.
that. You just had loads of chip shops, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, true, yeah. Very true. So, what about the game that sucked the most money out of you?
That's easy for me because it happened at a much later stage in my life where I had money, and it was definitely House of the Dead 2,
Right.
Sandown Pier.
Okay.
Daytona USA for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, just getting good enough to actually finish all of the races
But-
like, in first took so much money.
Also, because by that point, House of the Dead 2 was like £1 a go as well, wasn't it? So it'd be really
Yeah.
easy to go and
Mm.
chuck a $5 in it or a $10 in it over the course
Whereas
of the
Daytona
evening.
back when I was
Yeah,
playing
fair
it was like 20p a pop, so it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot at the same time.
For me, it would have to be Shadow Warriors.
What's Shadow Warriors?
Shadow Warriors is it was when ninjas were at their height,
Yeah.
and everything had to be ninja orientated,
Okay.
and it was it was sideways
Was it the
scrolling
one with
beat
the
'em up
dog?
again.
No.
No, that's Shadow Dancer.
Ah, that's amazing.
Shadow Dancer?
Yeah,
That's an
Shut
amazing-
It's
up.
follow-
Is his name Shadow and the dog's name's Dancer?
I think so.
The dog's
Something
name is
gay
Shadow.
like that. It was
His name, I'm Dancer. Here's my dog Shadow.
Shadow.
Shurikens.
It was a follow-up to Shinobi, so it's basically
same
Shinobi with a dog.
Sega, isn't it?
Yeah, but this one was it's a sideways scrolling beat 'em up, but you could backflip and bounce off walls and all sorts of shit, and you could do this move where you'd sort of cartwheel into a character, but grab them as you're doing the cartwheel and finish off the cartwheel and throw the guy against the wall, and it was.
It just reminded me of another game that I can't remember the name of.
It's probably
which
the
is
same
a
one.
side-scrolling, but you're not a ninja. It's like a futuristic landscape, and you're running through it. Strider. That's what it's called.
Strider's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Strider. They remade that recently.
Oh, really?
Remastered it, yeah.
Oh, cool. I
Made
love
a
that
new
game.
modern
Amazing.
version
I'm
of
gonna have
it.
to have a look at that.
Oh, that's just reminded me as well while we're talking about games that they've remastered, that Bionic Commando as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Got
It's a
it.
good game in the arcade.
Okay. I never played it in the arcade. Played it on a
Yes.
home system, and it was pretty
Completely
disappointing,
different
but-
game on the NES, better in some respects.
Right, okay. It
But,
still had a little handy grab thing that you
yeah.
fired up into the trees
Yeah.
and
Like you
swung
c-
around with.
What's
Well, they've
weird-
done 2 versions
what's
recently,
weird-
haven't they?
What's weird by modern standards is with Bionic Commando is there's no jump. You can't jump. If
You have to use the hand
You can't
thing.
jump to
Yeah.
grab a branch up.
No.
You have to find another way to that branch, even if it means you have to do a horizontal grab to something.
Yeah, swing
in the wrong
across.
direction.
Yeah, because they
Right.
did like a remaster, didn't they? Side-scrolling
And then
still,
they
and then they've
rebooted
done
it,
like a
didn't they? And it was
reboot 3D
garbage.
one. Yeah,
I've
and
got
it
the
was-
3D one. It's not fantastic.
No.
I didn't get up with it.
It loses some of its character by
Yeah.
becoming 3D, unfortunately, which you
Yeah.
kind of
Enough.
think would be amazing.
Yeah, but it doesn't quite
it-
work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
The machine that took the most amount of money from for me was The Simpsons. The
Oh, really?
Economy Simpsons, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember just going to the arcade with my dad and like him just giving me like a tenner and me just putting £10 in The Simpsons and just sitting there for hours, and I know they were bored as fuck. My parents were just, is he still on it? Yeah, he's still on it.
Let's go and play the 2p machines with all the money we have left. Amazing.
Yeah.
So we got any personal favourites?
I just want to mention, because we probably haven't spoke about them, but there's a cluster of games that are quite similar, and it's mostly because they're all from the same genre. They're probably just follow-ons for each other. It's like Bubble Bobble,
Yeah.
and Rainbow Island,
Rainbow
and
Island,
Parasol
yeah.
Stars.
Yeah, they're all the same.
I've
They're
never
all linked,
played
aren't they?
Parasol
And
Stars.
but things like Snow Bros is similar genre, and
Well, it's like puzzles but not just like your standard home computer and puzzle games ended up being. They were a little bit more interesting, weren't they?
There weren't so many on the arcade. I think Pipe Mania made it to the arcade, didn't it? I think
Pipe Mania was an arcade game.
Was it?
First, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, talking of the flip though, that's weird. Is games that probably came out on and then ended up in the arcade afterwards. Is Super Mario Brothers came out in the arcade? Didn't
I
it?
remember seeing that. Yeah,
Yeah, you could play it as a arcade game.
I always
and
thought
obviously
that
it's
was
quite easy to be really good at it because you'd play it around mates' houses and stuff.
And Wipeout. I'm sure I've seen Wipeout in the arcade.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Made a good arcade
they had
game,
that at
wouldn't it?
Tocadera, but it was a sit-in one, and it was like a closed cabinet.
That would make
That
sense.
was mental because it rocks with you as you're racing. That was
Nintendo got a
awesome.
weird history of making the odd arcade game, because you remember Cruising USA?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
the one
that's
with the
a
really
Nintendo
posh-looking
game.
cars. Yeah.
Yeah, the posh, but quite funky. Yeah, but you could weirdly, one of the cars you could be was a yellow American school bus as well, wasn't it?
All right. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But,
Well, Crazy Taxi was another one that was an arcade
Crazy
first.
Taxi. That was
wasn't it?
Sega, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was arcade first, and then that's had so many versions on consoles since.
Good game.
Yeah.
What's the ambulance version of Crazy Taxi? Because there's a one where you pick up a patient and you've got to not crash and stuff, and it's and there's a little screen of the patient in the back,
Yeah.
and it's basically Crazy Taxi.
Brilliant.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Is it called Crazy Ambulance? If anyone out there knows, write in. Let us know.
Has anyone been in proper arcade places recently? Obviously, we live somewhere where there's quite a few on the seafront.
But they're all disappointing here because
they're so shit
struggle.
now.
I've been in
Businesses
one
here
recently that was me and the girlfriend were down Ryde Seafront, and there's a little arcade separate from the one connected to the bowling alley and the one like on the near the high street and that. There's the little one. And we went in there randomly, and there was this machine, and we were looking around, sort of like, what do we play? And then there was all this smoke coming out of a machine, and we're like, what is this about? And we sat down, and it's basically a zombie shooter, like House of the Dead, but they're all cartoony, and you've basically got these guns you use, and you're spraying water, high-pressured water, at the zombies on the screen, killing them with your water, and then there's like smoke coming out of the ground in front of you as if it's like an apocalypse and stuff.
Hang on,
It was so
firing
full on.
real water?
Yeah, at a digital screen, and it recognises where the water's hitting, and you have to spray the water out of a zombie for a certain amount of time to kill him, and then more and more zombies are coming, and then the location changes. But throughout the whole thing, you've got a stretch of like AstroTurf in front of you, and there's just like smoke will occasionally come out of it at certain points.
Is it called Pissing Contest of the Dead?
I can't remember. That would be an amazing name.
Does anybody remember going to the arcades and you'd have that whole Tin Can Alley area as well? It sounds like that.
Yeah.
It was like a laser thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
you had to shoot
and it ding, and it'd be it was a guy coming out of a toilet shouting at you, and then it'd close, and it was just weird shit. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing that terrified me the most with this new one, though, was at a certain point, there was like this little symbol came over, and I was just like, well, I'm going to shoot that then, aren't I? It's obviously a bonus or something. And when I shot it, the width of my water spray went to about an inch wide and even more powerful. So you're suddenly getting backsplash off of this fucking arcade machine. And I was like, this is actually fun. Like, I forgot how arcades can be fun, but this is just like nothing like I played in an arcade when I was a kid. This is totally different. It's really good.
I went, obviously when I was in Vegas, I went to quite a big arcade, like a modern arcade with just full of modern machines, and most of it's crap now.
Yeah.
Like what they license, like the one that always sticks in my mind is Fruit Ninja. Do you remember the crappy
Yeah,
like
what's the fucking point in
iOS
that?
iOS game is now an arcade cabinet?
That's ridiculous.
And then you get the ones randomly, like the old Jurassic Park ones just appeared back at the bowling alley locally, and it's like you've got like two like M5s or something attached, and you pick one up each, and it's just shooting dinosaurs, and it's just not actually that interesting, like, and it's not that challenging, and you just stood there going, well, okay, we'll stand next to each other and shoot shit for 10 minutes, and it's like, yeah, I don't even know if it doesn't
Is that
seem...
the one where you're in a Jeep?
No, you're just
That's
stood
the one
up.
I was
not the
thinking of. with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
The
giant
no,
follow up
it's
spiders.
to
that.
sort of House of the Dead came out similar time as the second.
It's got a
House of
weird
the Dead,
name,
isn't
like
it?
Sunbeam Cruise or something like that, though, isn't it? Because you're
I
on
thought it was just called Jurassic Park. There's actually a licensed
Jurassic Park
game,
one.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
well, this
But
is
there's
a
another
licensed one, but it's not in a Jeep. You're not sat down or anything. You just stood up holding guns and
Yeah,
running round the park, and it's just awful. But it's like modern, like
Yeah,
ultra
that's not
graphics and stuff,
No, the one
and
I'm thinking of is...
and next to it they've got like an Alien versus Predator one where you're just shooting at aliens and predators.
I keep seeing an
Right.
Aliens one that I'd like to play, but I just think I can't be bothered to spend a pound.
The
yeah.
Aliens, the Alien
original
sideways scroller is brilliant.
Brilliant.
Sideways scroller one was
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
They did a Predator beat 'em up as well. That's fantastic.
On the arcade.
Yeah, there's a Predator
yeah.
beat.
Ah.
Yeah, but similar era, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Used to have both those down Sandown Arcade in the generic cab section.
Yeah.
With
There
all the
was
sideways
another
scroll-
one they had. At Sandown.
There's a sort of a
Arcade.
follow up to Golden Axe as well called Alien Syndrome.
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned earlier on. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
remember that one.
yeah, sideways scroller with a gun. Right. So you're shooting
Yeah,
big aliens and
but
stuff.
with three very distinct characters.
Yeah, one of them being a robot.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Good game. That.
But yeah, what was the beat 'em up? No, more like a Street Fighter type game that they had at Sandown Pier as well. But it was really like amazing graphics, and one of the
Primal
characters,
Rage.
Primal Rage. One of the characters is a werewolf. I was going to
Amazing
say,
game.
and one of them looks like the Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had the dinosaur, like the T-Rex, the Velociraptor, the King Kong character, the Godzilla type.
Primal Rage.
like
Is that,
some
again, I
weird-
think that might be a Nintendo license.
Yeah, it was a
Could it?
Sega game.
Came out on consoles afterwards.
Yeah, it was a Sega game.
Oh, it's a Sega
Yeah.
game. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I think you could get it on Nintendos, obviously, but it was out on Sega originally. But yeah.
Cool. Any other honourable mentions?
I just want to bring up something that I found out today when I was doing some research. In 2012,
He's got notes.
as a marketing
list.
thing,
Fucking
it's like as a marketing thing, they brought out a game called The Last Bar Fighter.
Right.
So I'm just going to read out what I found out
Is
about
that a take
this.
on the name Last Starfighter?
No. Literally, The Last Bar Fighter. That is the
Okay.
game. So it's a beat 'em up.
Yeah.
So the machine actually has taps on the front that dispense beer. The person who wrote the article put, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that this is one of the greatest ideas in arcade history.
Right.
Developed for a brewery in North Carolina as a publicity stunt, The Last Bar Fighter is a fighting game with a unique hook. It pours a beer for the winner, though sadly they can't say they've played it themselves. The game doesn't itself look especially groundbreaking, being just a one-on-one fighting game made for an advertising campaign. But it's not quite as like subtle or tightly built as, say, Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom or anything. But what it does have is a tangible prize as well as the bragging rights that come with victory. Beat your opponent into submission and then drink a free beer while he has to buy you one.
Brilliant. I like that.
Yeah, it's a genius idea. And if you could change the game that was in it and still have it function in the same way, you could have that in pubs as like like halfway through the evening, two people like, yeah, do you fancy like
better
buy
than
me
an
a
arm
pint?
wrestle, isn't
And if
Yep.
I win, you buy me a pint. If you win, I buy you a pint, sort of thing. I'd be well up for that.
Yeah,
Love it.
definitely.
I can't remember what it's called, but I just want to mention it while I remember it. There's a really good game I played in an arcade in Newquay, and it wasn't too long ago. It was probably only 15 years ago, so about 2000, something like that. But it's a gun game where you could duck and move, and there was motion sensors, and it did this weird thing where the bullets coming towards you were obviously slower than they would have really been.
Mm.
Was it the one with that you stood on a pad, almost like one of the dance mats? Like it had a platform
Yeah,
that you stood
maybe.
on, and then
And
you
it-
held the gun, and
Yeah.
when you leant, like
you
the
leaned,
screen sort of
leaned, yeah.
moved,
It
and
is
then
that
if
game.
you press the
Yeah.
button, your character sort of ducked right down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. I can't think what it's
And
called.
obviously, that's just triggered in my memory honourable mentions to Silent Scope 1 and 2.
Oh yeah,
Silent Scope, yes.
Fantastic
Which again
games.
was
Sniper
one of
games.
those cool games that only worked in the arcade.
Yep.
Because you couldn't have the money. You didn't have the money in these at home to have a tiny little LCD screen built into a gun.
Oh, he did have, didn't he? He did have a gun that came out for it, didn't they? Do you
No,
remember?
I
Yeah.
There was a gun
Yeah, there
you
was
could buy.
for the arcade.
The Silent
the
Scope.
home games.
The
so
home
you
game.
could get the gun with a scope screen in it.
Right, I bet that was expensive.
What was
Yeah.
the console that emulated a lot of arcade games back in the day? It was
The Neo Geo, wasn't
Neo
it?
Geo.
No,
that's
Neo
the one.
Geo
It
was an
was-
arcade machine.
yeah.
Was it?
You
It
could,
had the same guts as
yeah.
like a Neo
Yeah.
Geo games console was the Neo Geo arcade. It had the same board in it. And
Right.
everything.
Okay. That
You could move your
explains
save
it.
game. You could move, and it was like nobody ever had one because they were like really expensive.
The games were like
were like
120
150
quid
quid.
each,
Yeah,
There you go. Right. Honourable mentions
super
for me.
collectible.
Do you remember Rastan,
Yes.
the side-scrolling
love
barbarian
Rastan.
game with a sword?
No.
It's a bit
Yeah,
before your
Rastan
time, Adam, I think. Excalibur, which is
Rastan had a follow-up, didn't it?
oh, did it?
Yeah, it was Nastar, which is basically Rastan spelt backwards.
Yeah. I don't remember that.
It was really
Sounds
good.
like it should be a racing game.
Yeah.
It'd be NASCAR.
Amazing.
But
Sorry,
anyway,
what was your other one?
Excalibur, which is like a side-scrolling Golden Axe style
Yes,
game, but
that
with
one was good.
King Arthur and his cronies.
That
I
is a
think,
good
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
And there was a top-down tank game, like a sci-fi, 2 joysticks. You'd pull them away from each other, like one to the right, one to the left, to make the tank like upend, like do a wheelie type thing, and you could fire bullets over stuff.
and do that thing where tank control, so you had to pull
Yeah,
back on
that's
one
right,
and forward on the other to make
And
it turn left.
Hold
and
down
right.
the buttons to charge your shots as well.
like Tron.
Don't
Was it
remember
a
what
Tron
that's
game?
called.
No,
Oh, I
no
don't
idea,
know.
but I know.
If you know what that was at home, please write in and let us know. And the last one, I can't believe we've mentioned Gauntlet.
Oh.
Oh yeah, Gauntlet's a very good game, but
That-
I have fond memories of that on lots of 8-bit machines.
That's it. It's an 8-bit
But that
classic
had
for me.
Massive cabinets, didn't it, with
Yeah.
4 players?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably the first 4-player game I've ever played, actually.
Gauntlet and Gauntlet 2 especially.
Elf is low on LZ.
Red Wizard is
It's
low
about
on
to
health.
die.
So before we start rounding up, Jamie Hayward had another question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no,
and-
he didn't. No, he didn't. That second
Oh no,
question.
sorry.
Dwayne
Dwayne
The
the
Rock
Rock Johnson sent us another question.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Dwayne
listening,
the
Dwayne.
Jock Ronson.
Did we ever prefer things like the pinball machines over the video games in arcades?
No.
Ooh.
No. Absolutely.
I was
I will
partial.
categorically tell you now.
I was always partial to a physical game, like you said about the laser guns with the tin cans and stuff.
Yeah.
Where you'd shoot them and
I know
they
what you mean.
tip over. Sometimes those more physical elements I quite enjoyed, but I don't know if one was. I
just
probably
never
spent
been good at
more time
pinball.
on
So,
Mortal Kombat.
See,
There
Pinball
are some
Dreams on the
pinball games.
Amiga.
There are some pinball tables that I love,
Yeah.
like the Twilight Zone with its ceramic balls, but I am not very good at pinball machines.
I like them, but I don't think I've ever been that
Like,
good at them either.
if I had a house big enough to have an arcade cabinet in it, it would have an arcade cabinet in it before it had a pinball machine in
Definitely.
it.
Yep.
Because mostly 'cause it would just be a main cabinet and have every game ever in it.
Have you seen the new? They're virtual ones, aren't they? But they look.
They're so expensive.
They are,
though.
but they're fantastic. They're basically, you know, when we had Pinball Dreams, Pinball Fantasies for the Amiga. It's
Yeah.
that, but a much more realistic version now. But they're the same size as an actual pinball machine. They're the same layout.
Yeah.
And you load up your different.
But they're making
Oh.
pinball machines again now, aren't they?
they
Licensed
look
pinball
cool, though, don't
machines.
they? They do look amazing.
I mean, I
Something
think,
about the noise as well. With
what
the
I'd
balls
like-
spinning round and riling off the metal and stuff.
I think what I'd like from owning a pinball table would be the keeping the pinball table working. Like
Yeah.
the lifting it up and getting underneath and changing individual components, which you just don't get with a modern thing where it's just silicon.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even do it with a PC anymore, do
No.
you? Like a PC is like about 5 components now
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
build
true.
a PC.
Very
innit?
true.
Whereas a pinball table, you're like, oh, that bumper's not working. What have I got to do to get that bumper working?
Yeah.
Go on the internet, buy the parts, weld it on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love a Twilight Zone, but no, I'd never. I wouldn't.
Oh, what
trade-
theme?
I
What
wouldn't
theme
trade
would you guys go
I wouldn't
with?
trade
though?
every video game ever for pinball. No.
Pinball.
If you could have one pinball machine in your house, what theme would you go with for it?
A pinball machine.
Yeah. If you were someone was just like, you can have a pinball machine, like any theme, just
Go
in
on,
your
I'll
house.
have a Batman one.
Batman,
That'll
cool.
do.
The Shining.
Shining.
Cool.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Turtles.
There's loads of Star Wars ones. Isn't
No,
there?
I take it back. It'd be the Prisoner because the ball would have to be the Rover.
Yeah.
It'd be the
So
Prisoner.
the idea of that game is you're trying to catch people trying to escape because you're controlling the ball, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think Star Wars, but then I'd love either the Addams Family or Twilight Zone.
Cool.
There you go. Thanks for the question, Jamie. I mean, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Pain.
Yep.
What?
Pained Dwanson.
So, should we
Pain
wrap up,
Dwok
guys?
I think we should.
We've been
Pain
talking about
Jock
this for hours.
Ronson.
Paul, where can we find you?
Skulking around the internet in the usual places. It'll be Rocket Punch Collectables and Curiosity. I always forget my last shop name.
I always get it right when you're not here.
He does,
Do
yeah.
you?
Always
Yeah.
mention
Well
your
done.
shop.
He's,
Thank
he's
you.
on
Remember.
he's got your back, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
was gonna say- he's on your
Non-inappropriate
back, but-
touching.
Well, I'll wait 20 years and get it reported and cash in on that one. As I mentioned on our previous podcast, not a lot of stock and not a lot going on the shop at the moment. That's because I'm preparing an awful lot of stock for big old nerd fest that's taking place on the Isle of Wight next
What's
month.
that, 4th and 5th of November, is it?
4th
Isle
and
of Wight
5th.
Comic Con?
That's the one, Isle of Wight Comic Con.
Ooh.
So, go check it out. I will be there with a number of other nerds, and if you're feeling nerdy, go and check it out.
And then rushing off to watch fireworks afterwards.
Nah. When I was a kid, it was
You won't have to
fireworks
go
or a
far.
new toy. It was always a new toy for me. Sod the fireworks, spend it on a toy.
Yeah.
Adam, where can we find
You can find me in all the usual places, Adam Gatchell Arts on Facebook and YouTube. It is Thursday when you're listening to this, so tomorrow, if you are on the Isle of Wight and fancy an evening of spoken word, comedy, poetry and musical spoken word,
Listen to our podcast. It's hilarious.
I'll be at the White Rock Bar with my mates from Reading Between the Lines Collective, King Stammers, my brother-in-arms, performing and supporting Gecko. So if you're about and you fancy it, come along. All of
Go
that
on,
is on
Gecko.
Facebook.
Ross?
You can find me
Having a wank.
not playing Twilight Zone because I don't have a pinball table. Probably just playing video games on the internet or painting miniatures, which you can't find me doing. Find me on PlayStation Network and play
Having a wank.
Royale.
Battle Royale Fortnite, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm probably going to buy Battlefront when it comes out next week or the week after.
Instagram?
Yeah, we've got an Instagram. It's called the SNEW Network. Go on there and you'll find we don't post very often, but I'm going to try and post at least once a day.
Sometimes it'll be things you don't want to see, and sometimes it'll be things you do want to see.
Cool. And me hanging out on SNEW with the Crew's Facebook page. So right there if you want to ask any questions or leave any comments or anything like that.
Email us at podcast@thesnewnetwork.com with questions or requests or information about the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Give some topics.
Whether there are Transformers on the moon.
Honourable mentions for Libsyn and Sticher. But of course you can find our podcast by Google searching SNEW with the Crew online and, share a link with a friend. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Force people to watch, tie them down, plug their ears in.
Or
Don't
listen.
do that, but suggest it to them politely.
No, force them.
Don't get all Hollywood on it.
Then there's my music page, Chris Quinton's Music and Things, where you can find what's going on with me musically. So yeah, great stuff. Right. You've been a listener. We've been SNEW with the Crew. Thank you very much. We'll catch you next time. Say goodbye, guys.
See you later.
Goodbye.
I feel like I should be able to remember the theme tune to Bubble Bobble.
Give it your best shot, boy.